LIV Golf players are starting to panic, and the reason why should terrify every single person who jumped ship from the PGA Tour. Behind closed doors, something's happening that nobody's talking about publicly. Agents are making quiet phone calls, contracts are being reviewed with lawyers present, and the whispers coming out of locker rooms paint a picture that's completely different from what LIV wants you to believe. What's really going on with LIV Golf's money? And why are some of the league's biggest stars suddenly looking for escape routes? The truth is way more dramatic than anyone expected. Let's rewind to where this all started, because understanding how we got here makes the current situation even more insane. When LIV Golf launched, it didn't just enter the golf world, it exploded into it like a grenade. The league was handing out contracts that made people's jaws drop. We're talking $100 million, $150 million, some whispers even suggested deals pushing past $300 million, all paid up front. Private jets to every event. Prize money so massive it made PGA Tour purses look like pocket change. Golf's biggest names were getting offers they literally couldn't refuse, and the entire sport went into meltdown mode. The PGA Tour fought back hard, threatening lifetime bans and stripping players of their tour cards. Friendships exploded. Legends like Rory McIlroy felt personally betrayed. The golf world split into two angry camps, and lawsuits started flying in every direction. But through all that chaos, LIV players kept saying the same thing. We're set for life. The money's guaranteed. This league isn't going anywhere. They believed it completely, and why wouldn't they? When you're backed by Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, a sovereign wealth fund worth over $700 billion, running out of money sounds impossible, right? But here's where things get interesting. From day one, the math never actually worked. LIV was spending money at a rate that defied basic business logic. Analysts started doing the calculations, and the numbers were absolutely terrifying. Events were costing tens of millions to produce, but generating almost nothing in return. Television deals that were supposed to bring in massive revenue never materialized. Sponsorship money that should have been pouring in stayed away. And the league was burning through an estimated $200 to $400 million every single year, with no signs of slowing down. At first, everyone assumed this was just the cost of launching something revolutionary. But LIV wasn't losing money like a startup. It was losing money like a sinking ship, and nobody seemed to be bailing water. The league kept spending like the cash would never run out, throwing extravagant parties, flying players around in luxury, and pumping millions into marketing campaigns that barely moved the needle. And then the television disaster happened. LIV's big bet was the CW network, a deal that was supposed to finally give them mainstream American exposure. This was the moment that would change everything, or so they said. But the reality was brutal. Some CW stations flat out refused to air LIV events. Others buried them in terrible time slots or bumped them for reruns of old shows. Viewership numbers were catastrophically low, sometimes pulling fewer than 300,000 viewers nationwide. To put that in perspective, PGA Tour events were regularly hitting millions. One sports analyst didn't hold back, saying LIV's ratings looked like late-night infomercial numbers. That's not just bad, that's a complete disaster. But that's not even the most damaging part. Without real viewership, sponsors started walking away. Corporate sponsors pay for eyeballs, for brand visibility, for consistent exposure. LIV wasn't delivering any of that. Multiple insiders confirmed that major sponsors pulled out the moment they saw the ratings. Some didn't want the political controversy of being tied to Saudi money. Others were frustrated by constant format changes and schedules that seemed to shift every other week. One sponsor reportedly said they didn't even know what product they were attaching their brand to anymore. Then came the player backlash. And this is where things get really uncomfortable for LIV. The league had promised these guys everything. Guaranteed money? Sure. But also freedom, lighter schedules, and a chance to revolutionize the sport. But reality hit hard. Players started realizing they weren't earning official world golf ranking points, which meant their global standing was plummeting. They were losing automatic exemptions into major championships, the tournaments that actually define legacies. Some felt trapped by contracts that made it nearly impossible to return to the PGA Tour, even if they wanted to. And here's the part that should scare every LIV player. Rumors started spreading that several big names had their agents quietly exploring exit options. These weren't fringe players. These were stars who'd taken massive upfront checks and were now second-guessing everything. One insider described it perfectly, saying everyone was riding high when the money hit. But after the honeymoon ended, a lot of guys realized they'd traded prestige and legacy for financial uncertainty. If you're hooked on this drama, smash that like button and subscribe because this story is far from over. Then the merger bombshell dropped, and it shook the entire golf world to its core. Out of nowhere, the PGA Tour and LIV announced they were exploring a merger. Nobody saw it coming. LIV players found out through news reports. PGA Tour players felt blindsided and betrayed by their own leadership. Within days, the US government opened investigations. Deadlines came and went with no progress. Negotiations stalled behind closed doors, and trust between both sides evaporated completely. Industry analysts said the merger looked like a desperate Hail Mary from two struggling entities trying to save themselves. Behind the scenes, the financial reality was even uglier. Analysts estimated LIV was losing a minimum of $200 million per year, with some believing the real number was closer to $400 million annually. Add in the massive upfront contracts, constant international travel costs, expensive event production, and aggressive marketing spending, and insiders started openly questioning whether the business model could ever work. Failed TV deals, weak sponsor interest, soft ticket sales, and almost zero investor appetite for team ownership painted a picture that was impossible to ignore. And then the pressure from Saudi Arabia's public investment fund reportedly shifted. According to multiple sources, PIF wasn't interested in throwing more money at the problem anymore. They wanted results. They wanted LIV to become self-sustaining, to show real returns, to prove it could stand on its own. That's a massive problem because LIV has never proven it can survive without continuous massive financial injections. The league has been on life support since day one, and now the people holding the plug are asking serious questions. Players are feeling that pressure too. Some are trying to stay publicly loyal while privately exploring their options. Others are watching PGA Tour developments closely, almost like they're measuring the distance back. Insiders say several players have skipped optional LIV events, citing vague injuries or personal reasons. That's not the behavior of people who feel secure about their future. That's the behavior of people hedging their bets. So where does this leave us? When you look at everything together, the catastrophic TV ratings, the sponsor exodus, the failed CW deal, the player frustration, the stalled merger, the executive departures, and those staggering financial losses, one question becomes impossible to ignore. Is LIV Golf actually in serious trouble? Here's the honest answer. LIV isn't officially bankrupt. There's no formal filing, no announcement, no public collapse. But the warning signs are everywhere, loud, and impossible to miss. Even loyal LIV supporters are starting to ask uncomfortable questions. The confidence that defined the league's early days has been replaced by uncertainty and doubt. The bold promises about revolutionizing golf have given way to defensive statements and PR spin. Maybe LIV finds a way to turn this around. Maybe the merger saves both leagues. Maybe Saudi Arabia decides to keep funding the experiment regardless of returns. But maybe, just maybe, we're watching one of the most expensive sports experiments in history slowly crumble in real time. The cracks are showing, the pressure is building, and the players who bet their careers on LIV's promises are starting to realize that guaranteed money doesn't mean guaranteed security. LIV's future isn't what anyone thought it would be 2 years ago. The league that promised to change golf forever might end up being remembered as the league that burned billions trying.